Hello, ladies and gentlemen. VibinSonic here to provide some information in regards to one of my favorite games to have come out recently that is unfortunately officially being shut down next year, June 2025. This information comes on December 3rd at 6:41 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this is from the Xdefiant official account, as well as from Mark Rubin's official account on Twitter as well. So just going to go ahead and read these tweets and messages and continue to provide my thoughts. It starts with, "Dear players, important message. Xdefiant is sunsetting. Thank you for your incredible support and dedication to Xdefiant. We regret to inform you that we are initiating the sunset process starting today, December 3rd, 2024. As a result, new downloads, player registrations, and purchases will no longer be available. Season 3 will still launch, the servers will remain active, and the game will be fully playable until June 3rd, 2025. For those who purchased the Ultimate Founders Pack, you will receive a full refund. Players who made any purchases within the last 30 days will also be fully refunded." And so they go into detail about that, and then they also post the message from Mark Rubin himself, who also tweeted. So Mark says, "Hello Xdefiant fans, I am unfortunately here today to announce that Xdefiant will be shutting down. Starting today, December 3rd, as we just mentioned, new downloads, player registrations will no longer be available. It will still release the Season 3 content in the near future, but the exact date is to be determined. Originally, it was going to be December 17th, 18th, or 19th, somewhere around that time frame. But it looks like they may end up pushing that back due to the announcement of the game being shut down permanently in general. For those who purchased the Ultimate Founders Pack, as they mentioned before, you'll get a refund." So he continues on by saying, "A few years ago, Ubisoft and the San Francisco development team embarked on a bold adventure to develop a new arcade shooter called Xdefiant. It was from the start an incredible challenge. Not only were we trying to shake up the genre by removing skill-based matchmaking, while bringing back a more old school arcade shooter experience, we were also diving into the high risk, high reward realm of free to play. And for that, I want to applaud not only the development team, but also Ubisoft leadership for taking that chance. Free to play, in particular, is a long journey. Many free to play games take a long time to find their footing and become profitable. It's a long journey that Ubisoft and the teams working on the game were prepared to make until very recently. But unfortunately, the journey became too much to sensibly continue. I am, of course, heartbroken to have to be writing this post. Yes, this game has been a personal passion for me for years. And yes, I know that not all challenges lead to victory. But I also want to recognize all of the developers who are being affected by this closure, which is very true. Requiescati pace. Each and every one of them is a real person with a real life separate from our own, and they have all put so much of their own passion into making this game. And I hope that they can be proud of what they did achieve. I know that I will always be proud and grateful to have worked with such a great team. A team that really punched above its weight class. And what they achieved is truly remarkable. The early response from players when Xdefiant launch was amazing. We broke internal records for the fastest game to surpass 5 million users. And in the end, we had over 15 million players play our game. That is something to be extremely proud of, especially considering how tough this genre is. So, thank you to all of the developers who put their passion into making this game. If there's one thing I hope we can all take away from this experience, it's the importance of open, honest communication between developers and players. This player-first mentality, along with respectful, non-toxic conversations between developers and players, has been one of the standout differences that made Xdefiant so special. For my very first post about Xdefiant, this was the vision I wanted to champion, and I hope it leaves a positive mark on how the game industry treats its players and communities. Big facts, Mark. Big facts. To our players, thank you. From the bottom of my heart, I want to express my deepest gratitude for the incredible community that has grown around Xdefiant. Your passion, creativity, and dedication have inspired us every step of the way. With the utmost of love and respect, Mark." So now your next question is probably, well, VibinSonic, Alvin, where does this leave you? And my honest answer is, I'm not entirely sure. This is definitely some very tragic news and upsetting for many people, right? Including myself. This is something that I would hope would not be the reality, but it is also something that I am not fully surprised by. For the past couple of months, there had been information and just stuff being circulated mentioning that this was a possibility. And on top of that, it was pretty noticeable that the player base for the game itself was continuing to decline since the release of the game, which is natural, but there also didn't really seem to be much going on until it was too late to really try to not only market the game, but do things within the game to help increase player retention. It is very tragic that this information comes before the game even reaches the 1 year mark. That's the first thing. The second thing is that this is before we even get to season 3. Season 3 was still released, but the information itself of the actual announcement, this is before season 3 even released, right? So you already have a lot of people that are obviously very upset, some of which are already done with the game. They just feel like that they wasted their time and that they don't really have much to play for at this point now, even though it is available to play until June 3rd. Okay, so you do really hate to see it. Now, me personally, I'm going to still play the game from time to time just because it is still something that I find to be fun to play. And for the most part, online gaming for me is very much in a weird limbo state. Okay, and so that leads me to my other point. As far as the future goes, as of right now, I from time to time play Fortnite. I started playing that again once new builds came out. And I still play Metal Gear Online from time to time, but it really is based on what rooms are available when I am able to play the game. And so a lot of the times when I do want to play, I'll get on the game and then all of a sudden the room is full or the room empties out as soon as I join. So sometimes that is unfortunate. And then, I mean, other than that, there's not much going on. I may end up going back to the finals, or I just may kind of go back and forth and play old games like Uncharted 4 online again and The Last of Us online again, just to, I guess, feel some sort of dopamine. But I mean, those games are all just stuff that I've already played before. So as far as the foreseeable future, I don't know what the online gaming plateau will look like for me personally. I'll look into Marvel Rivals as well, I think, just because the nerd in me, as far as like my love and appreciation for Marvel, kind of still wants me to try out that game, even though Overwatch is not something that I found to be enjoyable when I did try it. Why did this happen? Right? There's no official news as to why exactly they are deciding to shut it down. All you can really go off is what you see and just your own deduction, speculation. But it's all speculation. I don't have the facts. There's no way that I know, because I don't know. Okay, I don't know for a fact. But as I previously mentioned, there was a steep decline that was continuing to happen gradually since the game had released, right? And you would notice that players would just be dropping off. At first, it was like kind of like flies, and then it just went from there. You had a lot of people, creators, former COD players, pros, I should say, former pros and things of that nature, just bigger content creators in general and streamers that at the start of the game during preseason that were being sponsored essentially by Ubisoft to promote their game. They had a code in the store itself to, sponsor them. And so people could purchase things under their code and give them commission. And a lot of those people within that list of names started dropping off of the game fairly quickly. Some of those people that's on that list, even actually most, didn't even really last up until season 1. A lot of them had stopped by the point or by the time that season 1 had officially released. And then some had ended up leaving towards the middle of season 1 before it actually ended. So that's the first. There's quite a few things that you could say led to the downfall of Xdefiant. The first thing is that the game is released under Ubisoft itself. Ubisoft has a history that people find to be not really overwhelming, not really positive, and so they have somewhat of a devil horns effect, to which they don't really expect many games to be released under Ubisoft and actually work, and at least in the online realm, right? And there's been a history of games that have happened that you can see why you would feel that way, but also at the same time, you obviously have Rainbow Six Siege, which has managed to be alive and well for like what, 6, 7, 8 years, something like that, maybe even more. So you have that. Then the fact that it was being developed by Ubisoft San Francisco, which was a smaller wing within Ubisoft itself as far as the development team. Obviously, those individuals were very focused and very passionate about getting this game to work and did as best as they could. But now ultimately, here we are. And unfortunately, a lot of those people are going to be losing their jobs as a result of this being canceled. So that sucks. Xdefiant had a rough launch. It got delayed multiple times. And then when the final beta test came out, they did the thing where they listened to the community. And in my opinion, they prematurely released the game, even though at first they were saying that they were delaying the game with the premise of not releasing a game that is not fully ready. And so when they did release the game, the launch was not smooth. There was issues on day one, and there were issues that continued beyond that. The game was still fun, but there was still a lot of issues that were just noticeable. And they would do what they can to make those fixes, but sometimes not within the window of time that most players would be satisfied with the fixes. I'm a patient guy. I'm used to playing games that, as I mentioned before, you would pay full price retail and it would be bugged to hell just to then be fixed months down the line and actually be a much more smoother product. This game is completely free. So to me, it was worth waiting for. It wasn't at the point of it being completely unplayable at any point in time for me personally, but that's just not the way of the world. So you have a bad launch. You have a rough launch. You also don't use your marketing to your advantage and really get this game pushing and going in order to get more people to get on the game, as well as to help retain players that are on the game themselves. And so that's where I have to put a lot of the blame towards the Ubisoft as a publisher, because it seems like that they had money that obviously was invested into the product itself, but not enough to fully illuminate the potential of this game to its fullest capacity. And that's unfortunate. Don't like that. Really is tragic. The fact that it did not have features that you would expect from a game until way later. And even those things were riddled with issues. Season 1, they ended up releasing ranked. So you had the preseason, then you had season 1. Season 1 comes out with ranked. Ranked comes out, it's not available for the first like 5 days. People hype it up. They say, give us ranked. They end up releasing it sooner than expected. They do that, and ranked is absolutely bugged to hell. You had a crazy bug in which if you died at the end of the game while being on the winning team, if you died at that last second when the game was over, you would not get any of the RP that you had just essentially gained by winning the game. You would get absolutely nothing. That was something that I thought was absolutely insane. You also had ranked where there was not a faction limit. So you had 4 Phantoms on each side and had Phantom 8s. That was also unfortunate. You had the same meta of guns that would be used for quite a while without any significant changes that really happened in a decent window of time. And realistically, The thing about metas is that you're going to always have a meta, and then even when you change that meta, you're going to end up getting a different meta. So eventually it got to the point where some guns were definitely more viable than others, but a lot of the guns were still very much usable against the meta guns. I thought that was a positive, but again, they made those decisions a little too slow. Did they listen to the casuals too much? Did they not listen to the competitive players enough? Was it vice versa? No. They didn't have a bomb mode right away, which is a search and destroy. A lot of people were asking that from day one. They didn't get that until season 2. So there was a lot of people that kind of stopped playing just because of that one mode alone, which is kind of crazy, but nonetheless, if you have a lot of people that are used to playing Call of Duty, obviously a lot of people used to play Call of Duty and used to play search and destroy. They would be in those lobbies, they'd be going crazy, being toxic, all that good stuff. That was a missing feature. Next thing was the fact that they didn't have private matches. We just got private matches a few weeks ago. It's December 3rd, and we just got private matches a few weeks ago as part of a patch, right? That's something that realistically should have been in the game from the very beginning, but it wasn't. And it did not come about until towards the middle/end of season 2, which is unfortunate. There's games that have customs in it during its alpha, like Marvel Rivals, for example, amongst other games. And even when a game does not have customs within its beta, usually they release with customs. Not every game. This is not the only game that I've seen where private matches were not available at the beginning. But I don't know if there's been too many games where there was not a private match until season 2 of the game. So that's another issue. Right? Now, the fact that Ubisoft is a bigger IP and they feel like that there wasn't enough player retention for them to continue to funnel money into this project and keep it going, that they just feel like they should just cut their losses and pull the plug. That is a Ubisoft decision. That is from the higher ups, from the publishers themselves. It's what I would imagine. And that, the developers and the producers like Mark Rubin, they don't have too much that they can say in regards to that to combat that, because it's really hard to do it, right? They were hoping that the private matches would bring some people back, and it did. But the fact of the matter is that private matches was really only going to make a big difference for those that play competitively and were looking to become pros within this scene. And a lot of the player base and a lot of the people that are going to make the money for the game, as far as skins and things of that nature, are going to be the casual players, the people that do play from time to time. That's going to make up a large majority of your player base, which is a fact. And so private matches was not going to bring a lot of those people that were casual players that left to come back. And they did do things to try to appeal towards the casual players, but again, it may have been too late. The initial movement of the game was phenomenal, something that I enjoyed, and I'm definitely not a comp pro player for sure. I'm above average, but I mean, that's about it. But I enjoyed the movement a lot, and added a skill gap, but too much of a skill gap that obviously a lot of casual players did not enjoy. And so a lot of those people left the game almost immediately after getting shit on multiple times because they could not keep up, which is typically something that happens in games. So they end up nerfing movement within the game and the bunny hopping and all that stuff, not once, but twice, trying to appeal to the audience. It still didn't work. Still had people that came back, kind of still got destroyed by the same movement or count spamming, even though there was a penalty, and they still just couldn't handle it. Definitely wasn't as much, it definitely wasn't as crazy as it was initially, but still. And the game did have developers and a producer that did seem to be very passionate and dedicated to the game, trying to do what they could to listen to the community and act accordingly, but just not always able to act accordingly in the time frame that their consumers were expecting things to happen. And things take time. That's the thing that a lot of people do not understand. And so that is ultimately another thing that really ruined things. I believe, as I mentioned before, that Xdefiant either should have just released last year like they actually intended on doing, and then go from there and just fix the game up as they go along, or they should have just kept the game in the tuck, waited until each issue was fixed. Like if they had just waited and got the game to the point of it being where after season 1 ranked they fixed the RP bug, if it got to just that point and then released it then with the game in that state, I think it would have fared a lot better. But obviously it would have been, you know, closer to when Black Ops was going to be coming out. So they were in a tough spot nonetheless, right? But between the content, the re-releasing of skins, I don't know if that was something that was another thing that was really indicative of, hey, this game's gonna probably be shut down soon. But they kept releasing the same bundles that they had already released before, and weren't really trying to present anything new. And that was something that I started to notice weeks ago. And so again, that's something that kind of led me to believe that at some point they're going to probably say, oh, well, we're kind of done here, right? You hate to see it. This is not the first game that I thoroughly enjoyed that will be shut down permanently, nor will it be the last. It is also not the first game that I thoroughly enjoyed that just eventually gets to the point of dying because player count decreases so much that there's just not many people playing as well, especially when you consider how difficult it was within the past month or two to even play ranked games. Once you get to a certain rank, a lot of the player base, like I said, were casual players. They played in pubs. No skill-based matchmaking. That was the big thing about this game. People play pubs to enjoy that because you never know. You can have a lobby full of, you know, Bobby Timmies, or you can have 1 or 2, 3 people on each team that are sweats, quote unquote, or actual sweats or comp players, right? You just never know. And that was part of the lure of the game. That was part of the fun. And I enjoyed it for that reason. I always believe that in any game, there shouldn't be any skill-based matchmaking in pubs, but that should be in ranked, right? Especially if the game itself is not large enough to really uphold that. But if it is, then so be it. In a lot of ways, this game was doomed to from the start, simply because there's just so many people that are heavy fanboys of Call of Duty, as well as dick riders of Call of Duty. And even though some people may have mistakenly said that this game, Xdefiant, was a Call of Duty killer, which I personally never said, just because I know that there's no such thing. There's no such thing as a Call of Duty killer. There probably never will be, okay? In order for a game to be released within this same type of genre, the same type of realm of first-person shooter, to genuinely be a Call of Duty killer, it has to be an extremely exceptional game. It has to play very well. It has to do a lot very well. And it has to have a pretty smooth launch, as well as have fantastic marketing, really, to have any type of chance of being considered a Call of Duty killer. Call of Duty is just too much of a flagship franchise within this realm of first-person shooters to realistically die. Throughout the years, the only competition that Call of Duty has had in that aspect was Battlefield, and we know what state Battlefield is in now, right? But for a while, that was the game that was like, hey, this is your alternative. You can play Call of Duty, or you can play Battlefield, or you can play both. And the games, even though they weren't exactly the same, they were the flagship first-person shooter games, right? Even though one is a little bit more realistic than the other, which Battlefield is the more realistic one. The vehicles and tanks and all of that stuff that Call of Duty ended up implementing themselves at some point as well, mainly in Warzone. But nonetheless, that competition in Battlefield has also faltered to the point that it is pretty much an afterthought. It used to genuinely be a competitor for a few years, mainly around the time that Battlefield or Bad Company 2 came out. Battlefield Bad Company 2 came out. That was probably its best chance, and that definitely was one of the more stellar first-person shooters to ever be released at that point in time. But since then, it just hasn't really been the same. As far as the PS4 era, PS4, Xbox One era, Battlefield 4 to me is still the best Battlefield to be released since that time. So from that time up until now, that includes Battlefield 2042. And the last time I played Battlefield 2042, the game had been updated and was definitely better, or in a better state than it was when it first launched, which again is another example of a game being fully retail, not free, launching in a mess and then just being fixed later on. But that game, it got fixed later on, but it had already lost so many people playing it that you would load up literally and be in lobbies that were mostly AI, not even actual people. It would just say AI player. And we don't like that, which is mainly one of the main reasons why I stopped playing that game fairly quickly after buying it, unfortunately. We get to this point here where more than likely the after effects of this is that once again, Call of Duty is going to be the monopoly of this type of market of first-person shooters. There's a community that's already dedicated to hating on any competition that may pop up, whether it be speaking on the game in an ill will before the game even releases, trolling the game and trolling the community, releasing things that are propaganda in order to sell their objective and help kill that game faster, or just, shit on the game the entire time without actually playing it, or playing it very briefly and then just going back to Call of Duty. Things of that nature. That's going to make it much more difficult for other developers to really want to try to take a chance on actually releasing something that provides competition for Call of Duty. And that is unfortunate. Battlefield is still around, but like I said, it's mostly an afterthought. They got to do a lot more in order to really get people to be like, hey, you know what? I'm not going to get Call of Duty this year. I'm going to get Battlefield, or at least get both, and then just kind of focus more on Battlefield. But that's very unlikely to happen. As a result, Call of Duty is at a point where it's just like 2K, just like Madden, just like FIFA, in which they don't have competition, either because in Madden's case, they bought out the competition, right? But in the other instances, those games have become so large with communities that are so dedicated to playing each and every single game, every single iteration, even when there's not anything that warrants you to make that purchase for said game, that they can just continue to release the same type of product or a worse product or a mid product year after year after year after year. Because if I don't have any competition to make me want to increase and improve what I'm putting out there, but I know I'm going to still get the same amount of money, if not more, every single time, then why make improvements, right? It wouldn't make sense from a business perspective. So until more consumers of Call of Duty gets to the point to where they recognize that not much is happening with these games and that I shouldn't spend my money on it, you won't see anything that wows you, realistically. For the people that still find it to be entertaining and still play it all the time, I mean, shout out to you, I suppose. I don't know how you do it personally, but here you are. But for the people that buy these games and play these games every year, despite knowing that it's shitty and you're saying that it's shitty, you're complaining about it every single time, but just still buy it just because you feel like there's not anything else out there on the market. That's the primary reason why that is the way that it is. Until consumers take a stand and hurt the pockets of these corporations, of these publishers that are releasing these games, they have no reason to change anything, and you're going to be stuck in the same cycle every single year. Oh my God, this new Call of Duty looks very exciting. Oh my God, look at that. What a nice trailer. Holy shit, they got this new feature. Oh, this looks so great. Oh, this looks so great. Beta comes out. Wait a minute, hold on now. this game doesn't really feel that fun. Wait, this map is ass. This map is ass. This map is ass. Okay. I like this gunplay. I don't like this gunplay. Wow, this is pretty shitty. Wait a minute, this is Call of Duty. Oh, I gotta play this. I gotta play this, and then you get the game. This game not really that. It's not really like that. No, this isn't really that fun. It's all right. It's kind of mid. No, this is shitty. I don't want to play this. Oh, this is actually one of the worst FPSs I've played in my life. That's going to continue to happen, ladies and gentlemen, until you decide to make a change. These companies have no reason to make a change whatsoever. So, with that being said, big salute to Xdefiant. Big salute to Ubisoft San Francisco for trying to take a chance on a free-to-play arena shooter that genuinely felt like a lot of fun. Reminded me of my old days of playing Call of Duty before I retired. I do appreciate this opportunity. It's been great, and it's been a fun time playing this game for sure. I'll continue to play it, definitely, up until the game is shut down permanently, the same way that I did when Metal Gear Online ended up being shut down in 2012. It is unfortunate to see that this type of stuff is happening to games much more in recent years that I can remember, especially the games that are free, because the games that are free, it's going to take much of a bigger risk, since you have to find a way to really retain your audience and then also have them purchase things within the game itself in order to make money. Otherwise, you're just burning your assets and your resources and everything else. And so the big companies, they'll just decide to pull the plug. Big shout out to everybody from the Xdefiant community. Shout out to those that stuck around and tried to really grind out content for the game and really tried to represent it in a positive light, and those that really just wanted to shine a light on something that would provide a healthy form of competition in a way to Call of Duty, because at the end of the day, it was an alternative, right? Or something that you can play and enjoy on both ends. For me personally, this may make things very rough for me online gaming wise next year in June. I don't know about other people, but this could potentially be something that really changes things for me for sure in the gaming world online wise, because I don't have too much faith in a lot of other stuff that's been coming out. So we shall see. But until next time, peace and blessings. Big salute. Requiescati pace to Xdefiant. And until next time.